Hey YouTube, Rant here. Just wanted to give y'all the news and the real take. Before I get into it, because I'm going to be a little more radical in today's episode, uh, uh, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. I didn't agree with some of his opinions, nor should really. I mean, everyone's entitled to their own view. But to his family, blessings. But I just wanted to get this off my chest that we've been in a cold civil war for about a decade now since Trump came to power, and it's not really Trump's fault. I think it's more of a reaction to you had the old legacy under W. Bush, and then you had Obama after him, the first black president, which I think a lot of, especially conservatives, had to accept that change. And then with Trump, that's when the censorship turned up to a max volume. So really, no one should be surprised by Charlie Kirk's death. As sad as it is, it's been a long time coming. I mean, heck, we almost went into a civil war in December or November with Trump almost getting shot. So this is just the accumulation of almost a decade of censorship of the conservative and right wing party. And I'm a moderate. I lean a little right, but I'm left on some core issues. But I can tell you right now, I've been seeing this clearly since 2017, 2018. I'm going on a freaking rant today. After Trump won in 2016, I know my cat's meowing. After Trump won in 2016, big tech turned up the volume illegally on censorship. Now, I guess it's legal because there's a little box that says terms of service, but then you bring monopolies into the equation, and I think it's practically, it's there's a reason they're breaking up some of these companies. But let me be clear that they took away the dislike button. They did the most relevant comments to filter out those they didn't agree with. The Twitter files exposed a 98.7% against conservative censorship level. So they were censoring both sides, but one of them they were doing 98.7%. The other one they were doing 1.3%. This was for thousands of requests. So it's not just isolated instances, because that's hard data. And so, yes, when you do that, when you say punch a Nazi, when you demonize half the population, which Trump's not perfect either, but at least, he stuck by the court of law. January 6th, it's a whole other ordeal I'm not going to get into because there's questions there that haven't been answered. But yeah, by the way, let's put Charlie Kirk aside. This, dude, this is Americans' fault. First and foremost, it's American voters' fault. You think I'm going to let you off the hook? Y'all aren't off the hook, okay? Yes, Bush sucked. Obama wasn't what he was said he was going to be. Trump wasn't the best. It was kind of fucking like what the fuck moment. Biden sucked. Now Trump's second term is a nightmare, okay? The American government has failed, and we voted them in. It's our fault. It's all y'all's fault, America. All y'all's fault. For I would probably say since Kennedy, the two-party system has been dying. It's been dying for decades. The 90s was just a good decade overall. So there's a lot of pop culture stuff that happened in the 90s, but it was a good decade overall. But besides the 90s, I've heard a lot of correlations that were like the 70s again, where it's after all these assassinations and it's kind of a scared society. But you had that you had civil rights in the 60s. You had the recourse down in the 70s. You had the freaking 80s, which Reaganomics that turned out so well. The Iran-Contra war on drugs. How did that fucking go? Then the 90s, the only thing that happened in the 90s is that's when corporations were really starting to just buy out politicians like a barcode. Just ding, ding. That's where we're at, which we're still recovering from. So this has been years in the making. The two-party system has, in my lifetime. So I'm in my I'm in my early 30s now. That's difficult to say. So I've been around since Clinton, but really I remember the second half of Bush W is when I came into consciousness as a kid. And the two-party system. What is the benefit? Okay, like for instance, I'm a moderate, but I'm pro-choice to about the 2-month, 3-month term. I think I'm actually very pro-immigration. I studied immigration in college, but the immigration system sucks. And so a lot of people have to come over illegally, which I don't agree with illegal immigration. But that's the reality of the fact. You have all these people who want to live the American dream. God bless them. I want it for them as well. The more people we have, the more dominant of society and country we are. But the fact is the whole system is just jacked. Don't get me started on the judicial system. The judicial system has been pay to win and failed for decades. So with Charlie Kirk, it's no wonder that it happened to this point. And so the reason I titled it "A Cold Civil War is Over" is this has been 9 years in the making. I personally hope that this is the de-escalation point, that the left and right can look at each other honestly, which this is probably isn't going to happen, but God forbid, the left and right can look at each other honestly and admit that there are faults. Mainly right now on the left, because they're the ones that won't have the dialogue. So really, the responsibility is on them. And if they don't change, it's going to turn into a hot civil war, which no one wants. Let me no. The people. I have a friend who's in the military who said this. You don't want the reality of violence in the streets. Like you can already find it in a lot of like ghettos and stuff, and like it's tough places to live. But as far as war violence, that we've never experienced that on American soil since the Civil War. So we haven't experienced on American soil in modern times, and we don't want to be those people. We don't want to test. We don't want to be the guinea pigs for modern Civil War. Let's not, Americans. Let's not. So, but in reality, the left have to. The left have to change. They have to change on the discourse level, on the dialogue informational level, because until they do, this is going to get worse and worse, and there's going to be a boiling point. And because the left is now the aggressors, which I'm not even like when you think of Republicans, when I think of Republicans and under just George Bush W, I cringe. It's like honestly, the people who hate Trump, like even 2016 Trump, he's actually like light years more moderate and better for both parties than I would say Bush W. Bush W sucked, and I wasn't even around before then as far as Republicans go. But the left they need to fix this, because if they don't, more moderates are just going to keep on going right. And as much as I don't want as like a lot of they kind of dropped the ball, the left party did, the Democratic Party. You don't want the Republicans to have all that power. I don't want them to have all that power. So until there's allowed to be a dialogue, because that's what they want. That's the question is they, but whoever is making these radical changes in American society on an upper level, they want division. They want division, and we can't give it to them. You can't give them violence. Okay, so I just all day today I was thinking about just ranting at the screen. So rant's over. Let me get into the facts, and I'll put a little note in there to fast forward to this point in the video. So 8 minutes in, the reason I titled this the American, what I titled it, the end of the U.S. Cold Civil War, which I think is a good way to put it, because at this point it's either going to get hot or it's going to die down. At the end of the day, Charlie Kirk's going to be a martyr. I mean, he already is a martyr, but by definition, he's a martyr. But he's going to be a martyr for a counter movement, which a lot of people say, "Oh, Republicans aren't power. Republicans aren't power." Republicans, like my dad always says, give Republicans power, they'll find a way to fuck it up. Just both parties suck. But okay, so all right. Let me get my bearings together. So let's go back to 2012. No, let's go back to 2016, 2015, 2016. That's when everything changed. So in 2016, Hillary was supposed to win, no doubt about it. Hillary Clinton was supposed to win. Then everything happened with Snowden and the WikiLeaks, more specifically, and that kind of derailed her turn. And what I mean by Hillary was supposed to win is the Democratic Party positioned Hillary to win, meaning Hillary, like Bernie Sanders, I would say Bernie Sanders was supposed to win, but they rigged, I would say. They gave Hillary the questions in advance and not Bernie Sanders. And this happened, I think, twice with against Bernie. Once with Hillary and once with Joe Biden. So they gave Hillary the questions and not Bernie. So there was already the rigging right there. And then she was supposed to dominate Trump, but that didn't happen a lot because of the WikiLeaks. Then after 2016, after Trump won, who I don't I'm going to call them big tech because that's just what I affirmatively know. But whoever the powers may be decided that they needed more censorship, that the control wasn't enough, and that they needed to do it over time, especially because Trump was now in power. So what happened? The intelligence agencies did sloppy work under Trump in his first term. Big tech was allowed to censor based on the terms of service, even though I understand it's a free market and free press, but there are under Article 203, they're not supposed to be biased under Article 203 that allows online moderation. But the 98.5% to the 1.5% level shows extreme moderation, political influence, and monopolies of their industry. So based off of that, they were allowed to just turn, and then COVID happened. So COVID happened under Trump, and they just ramped up the censorship. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised. Crazy theory, this is theoretical here, but I wouldn't be surprised if they allowed COVID to be released to allow a global censorship. Because think about it. China had it happened in China, but then there was the whole a man ate a bat nearby theory. But there was a U.S. study. What is it? A U.S. research of. It's been so long since COVID of like of a man-made creative virus, like go to function. I think it's go to function virus or something like that. So you had that happen, and then they were just allowed to turn up censor. And then also around one little previously in 2016, you had the punch a Nazi, punch, and then January 6th demonized, which I'm not justifying January 6th. That was just a bunch of idiots, but that allowed this violence to be radicalized against really moderates. Like I'm not a huge fan of the far right. I think there's especially the older far right. I think there's an institutionalized racism for sure, but that doesn't give you the right to murder them in cold blood in front of their family, especially when Charlie Kirk was not like them. Like he communicated with Trump, but Trump isn't even legacy Republicans. So it's just fucked, man. I've had multiple people reach out to me say that like they haven't been able to work straight and think straight, but also going just tying further, I'm going to be doing some more videos because I studied. So my background specifically, like I have it in writing, is I studied U.S. history pre World War I, and so let me tell you, America, welcome to having your spine back. I feel like the spine's been gone in America since. I mean, some people say 9/11. I say 2016 personally. So it's been about 9 years with no spine, and a lot of that's not Trump's. A lot of that is Trump's fault because Trump, like, here's what's funny. People saying Trump's amazing and Obama's amazing and they're Joe Biden. All these presidents are amazing. We haven't had a great president since Bill Clinton, and even Bill Clinton wasn't like extremely good. All of our recent presidents have been marginally decent. Not good, not bad, except W and probably I put Biden in the bad category, but Trump and Obama have been marginally decent. So these things need to change. So I just wanted to make this video. I know, I'm experimenting with more emotion in my videos, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of give a rant. I'll be doing this a little bit more, especially as America so pleasantly escalates to God knows what. But I hope, as I've said in my last video, love your fellow American. Hear their perspective, hear their thoughts. That's important. You got to be able to bridge the gap and find common ground with your fellow man and woman. And you know, that's what we got to do. So, yeah, I'll be uploading a little more. Again, with Charlie Kirk, like I had one comment on the last video, and let me address that if you're listening, which I doubt you are. But I had one comment say, yeah, actually, I'm just going to do this on over the video because why not? Let me just summarize what the comment said. The comment said, Charlie Kirk was a gun rights activist and he got what he deserved. Don't talk about his kids as if that's an excuse, because he justified acceptable. This is it's complicated. I'll give the commenter credit. It's a complicated answer, but he accepts. There's an acceptable amount of losses that come with the ability to have the Second Amendment, and then also he had domestic violence in the past. So Charlie Kirk was not a good dude. Like, he wasn't like a perfect guy. Like, even I didn't know the guy. Even I knew that. And then he said, "Now this one." So I'll disagree with you here. I'll agree with you here. My bad with the commenter. As far as him wanting, if his daughter got SA'd, that you have to keep the baby, I don't agree with that. That's where I'm pro-choice. So, but again, the right is able to have more middle ground to discuss than the left, and so this is where I say the American Civil War is over, which may be a bold freaking title, but I thought it was a good point. So, I thought it would maybe get some views. So I hope it doesn't get hot. I hope this is the end. But yeah, that's where we are in America. Oh, and to address the commenter. So as I said in my reply, it's not about you agreeing with him or disagreeing with him or you hating him or your feelings or anything like that. It has to do with the law. And the law says and the law in the United States under US soil says he has the right to discuss with college kids, no less, but he has the right to free speech on government and available property. And so it's not about emotions; it's about the law and upholding the Constitution, really, and then not allowing Americans to be silenced. So I know it's a radical title, and I'm sure it'll get some thoughts, but that's kind of my feedback on where we are today and just seeing the fallout happen. So we'll see what happens with the shooter. I'm hearing rumors he was part of Antifa, but I don't know, man. Like this is how you know it's bad. I was more concerned when I found out they have the guy than when they didn't have the guy after Epstein, because like, what's going to happen? What excuse is our government going to find for dropping the ball yet again, for failing the American public yet again? I don't see it. I don't see it. But that's all. I might change the title because it is a little incendiary, but we'll see. Thanks.